Hello and welcome to a special update episode. Usually when I have some news to share, I just add it to the beginning of other videos that I record. But this time I decided that, hey, I have so many news to share that it's probably going to take a while. So yeah. Basically, I'm pretty sure some of you who are watching my channel are wondering where I have gone to during the past 3 weeks or so. Well, that's quite an interesting story actually, so I probably want to tell it to you. So for those who are not interested, well, this is a separate video for a reason, so you can skip it. Yeah, but anyway, what happened over these past few weeks is very much related to the computer hardware here. The thing is that 3 weeks ago I was using my computer as normal, and one day I saw that my boot times were getting higher and higher over time, basically. At first it was something like 45 seconds, then it went up to 60, then to 75, etc. And at the end of that, I think I had around a minute and a half or something. So basically it was really long. And then one day I also saw that there was an error message claiming that a desktop file was not found. And basically what happened because of that, all of the icons on the desktop, like these ones here, stopped being displayed. So I thought that, hey, something bad is happening here, and I wanted to figure out what exactly that was. My first idea was that it was file system corruption. Basically, the same thing happens on Windows as well. If you use it for a long time, NTFS gets corrupt and boot times get slower, and the system gets less and less responsive as you go. That's why it's recommended to reinstall that. It's not quite as severe on Linux, so I was quite surprised to see that. So in the end, I decided to do something about it and wrote a gparted image onto an USB disk and used that to check my file system. And lo and behold, it found a lot of errors. And when I say a lot, I mean something around 3,000 maybe more. So yeah, that was not a good sign. So what I did is I went to the IRC channel for the file system that I'm using, and I'm using Btrfs, or BTRFS as I like to call it. And the developers there, they suggested doing something. The first suggestion was that that I scrub the file system. Basically that goes over every file system node and repairs some of the damage that just happens there without any warning. So I did that, and yes indeed, most of the errors were gone. Not all of them though, most of them were gone from the first part, but the second part remained the same. There were something like 50 errors or so in the second part of the file system check tool. So with that I asked the developers, well, what gives? Why did that not fix everything? And they said that these errors were actually due to the fact that you're using an older version of BTRFS tools. and they suggested to upgrade to version 0.20 release candidate 1. So basically that was a bunch of false positives in the second part there. The first part though seemed to be legit, and I solved all of them by scrubbing. So in next what I did is, as they suggested, I booted into my main system and created myself a custom live city that contains the newer version of the tools. Then I booted into that and ran the file system check tool again. And what do you know? All of the errors that I fixed last time, they were back. Yeah. And the worst thing is, scrubbing again did not help. I also wrote that to the developers, and they were extremely puzzled and said that it was kind of impossible to have that happen. On the positive side, the errors on the second part of the file system check tool were gone, as the developers said they would be. So I was puzzled, they were puzzled. So essentially I started to look for the cause in the hardware. I ran a check for the disk, of course that's the main thing that I could think of, but the test on the disk succeeded very well and reported no problems whatsoever. So I was still puzzled. Then people on IRC suggested checking my memory. The interesting thing about it is that the tool that I used to create a custom live CD for my updated version of BTRFS tools, SUSE Studio, is a very nice tool, and it also adds memory checking into the live CD automatically. So that was very convenient. What I did in that case is I just used the same image that I just used, and let me switch some of the music here. There we go. Yeah, so I used the same disk that I used back then to test the new BTRFS tools. And yes, it indeed reported a lot of problems. And again, when I say a lot, in this case, I mean that it reported millions of errors. I literally got bored of seeing all of those errors at the point it got to, I think, 80 million errors. So yes, I was then kind of puzzled at how my computer managed to run to begin with. Yeah, so I did some more checks, added one module, removed the other, etc. And in the end, everything I tested had the same problem, in the same test, and the same amount of errors. So what was left? Of course, I returned the memory module to the warranty servers, and they said that it would be fixed by 2 weeks' time. So that's basically why I didn't upload anything, because my memory from this main computer was in the RMA. Yeah. But the story doesn't end here, no. While it was in RMA, I decided to just prophylactically check some of the other computers I have here at home. Other devices, like we have a laptop here, so I decided to check its RAM as well. So I used the same image, because again it's very convenient, you don't have to do anything special, it just is there, you just select the option to check your RAM and it does that. And yes, I got the exact same errors on the exact same test. So at that point I began to become suspicious. How is it possible that I get the same errors on entirely different hardware? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? So I looked it up on the internet, and apparently the version of Memtest 86 Plus that is packaged with the live CDs that are created by SUSE Studio as well as OpenSUSE 12.2 were compiled incorrectly, and it caused it to output all the errors no matter what memory is used. So I hit another false positive. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, so in the end, the memory modules were replaced. I still don't really know if they were really bad or if it was just the false positive. I don't know if they really did extensive memory tests and what their results were, but the fact is that the memory was replaced. So now, after I got it back, I ran some more memory tests, this time using some proper tools from upstream Memtest 86 Plus as well as the other Memtest 86. All of them succeeded correctly over numerous passes, so I'm pretty certain that now my memory is correct. Yeah, and I then checked the file system again, and I got all of the errors again. So I asked the developers again, what can I do about it? Since I had everything backed up and I didn't care if I lose any of the data on the disk or not, they suggested using the experimental repair option. I used that, and it repaired all of the errors that I had in the first part of the tool, but it introduced more errors into the second one. And if that wasn't a bad thing, I tried to boot the system after the repair, and it caused a kernel panic. So basically, that's, for you Windows users, it's an equivalent of a blue screen of death. Yeah. So that was not salvageable. In the end, I just formatted it, and I had to reinstall the operating system once again. I did that and ran the BTRFS-CK tool once more to see if everything was okay, and it reported that everything was okay. So I was hopeful and installed everything that I needed, configured the system as I wanted, and then the next day I decided to run the test again to see if errors did not return. Welp, they returned. Not in the first part, but in the second part, there were something like 120 errors. So I once again got back on IRC and asked the developers there what I can do about it. And nobody could actually tell me what those errors meant. And let me skip some of the music. Now I can hear the music, and in the same way that you can hear it. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so just recently I asked the developers what to do about all those errors that were returning. They still suspected some hardware failures, but I ran a check of pretty much every hardware component I could. So on the processor, on the power supply, on the disk again, using different tools, and all of them reported that everything was fine. So the only thing left there was a program error. So yes, I suggested that it could perhaps be a program error. People on IRC said that it's not very possible because nobody else had reported anything like that. Then they again asked me if I had the latest BTRFS tools. I said that yes, I did. You just told me to upgrade to version 0.20 RC1. And I verified that the time was indeed September 4 when it was released. But from that point in time there were a few updates. So I just went over the commit log of BTRFS tools, looking for anything interesting. And what do you know? There was a comment saying that there was an issue in BTRFS CK that caused a bunch of errors to appear. And those errors were exactly the errors that I saw. So I upgraded to the latest Git version, which is the latest version, just to be safe. Then I rebuilt my live CD, ran the test from there, and finally, now I am at this point where there are no errors and none of them appear on the next day. So I hope this will continue being the case. But yeah, this is kind of crazy. Over these 3 weeks I ran into 3 false positives. Like 3 different tools, different versions of tools that caused different false positives to appear. So yeah, that's crazy. But hopefully everything is good now and I can get back to recording videos. Right now you're looking at my Plasma desktop as I have configured right now. You can see only a very small part of it. I have some more panels, but otherwise, yes. Meanwhile, while my memory was out, YouTube updated its user interface. I don't really like it, at least some of the things that they changed as usual. I don't remember any time when I actually liked the changes, but whatever. They also forced the porting of all the Google videos to YouTube, even though I didn't really want that. But at least they set all of that to private, I believe. Yeah. So now I have a bunch of videos that are private here that are really, really old. So I'm not sure what I should do about it. Probably I'm going to review those, and if I find any of them particularly interesting, I might as well publish them. But generally, they're really old, the quality is really bad. I don't really like some of the things that I have put into those. For one, my grammar was really bad at that time. But there are a few videos that I might want to publish because they're not that bad. And I don't know, if there is any interest in that, I might consider releasing something else. But it's like mostly my old RuneScape videos from back when I was a part of the clan. It was several years ago. So yeah, that's really old. What else? I don't think I have anything else here. I may have, but I don't remember anything else that is very important that I should share with you right now. But I'll keep you posted. Yeah. So, next up, of course, I will be continuing Might and Magic 2. Just as I was before, and this video will act as a sort of test to see if everything is going correctly. So yes, see you all then. Later.